against us. They hate our souls. They hate us. They hate our righteous indignation. They hate the exhortation that dwells in us. They hate our love. They hate our conviction. They hate the fact that we repented. They hate the fact that we truthful, honest, and bold. They hate our courage. Them devils hate us. We're not finna line ourselves up with these weirdos and freaks, but these weirdos and freaks. They working against us. They hate our souls. Weirdos and freaks. But these weirdos and freaks, they working against us. They hate our souls. Nubreed.
Ephesians 6:10. Finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord, and in the power of his might put on the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Wherefore take unto you the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all, to stand. Stand therefore, having your loins girt about with truth, and having on the breastplate of righteousness, and your feet shod with the preparation of the gospel of peace. Above all, taking the shield of faith, wherewith ye shall be able to quench all the fiery darts of the wicked, and take the helmet of salvation, and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God. Praying always with all prayer and supplication in the Spirit, and watching thereunto with all perseverance and supplication for all saints.
Undoubtedly, the one you call Jesus Christ was a black man. He was melanated. He had hair like wool. He had a deep voice. He was dark-skinned. He wasn't only just a black man. He was a dark-skinned man. He wasn't brown. He wasn't light-skinned. No, Christ was dark. We're talking about Wesley Snipes, dark. So let's make that clear. That's how he's described biblically. I don't know who this character is that they put up, but clearly the Most High God ain't happy with it. What my man Sizzler say? We serve no white God. I'm sorry, he's not white. Christians, I know that you have a hard time accepting this. You have a hard time understanding that Christ is the same image as your sons, as your uncles, as your father, as your grandfather, as the man that you dealt with. Yeah, he came in that same image. His lineage and bloodline is of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He comes through the lineage of David. He was a black man, all right? There's no doubt about it. In some extra biblical text, on record, on file, it even goes into race attributing to his crucifixion. because of the things he was bringing to the world. They even say his race contributed to his crucifixion. Now, let's make that clear. And if you have a problem with that, if you have an issue with that, so be it. But make this clear. Regardless of what your nationality is, your color, kindred, or creed, if you choose not to remember Christ as the scriptures have said, that's on you. You have to take that up with the Lord. But you see how the Lord is dealing with false idols.
Are you children of Israel? We are the biblical Israelites. Let's shine our light on this entire world and let them know that we're not standing for these 2/3 and their evil intentions for us. And we're not falling for the tricks and the charades. It's time that we rise up, honor the law, statutes, and commandments written up in that Bible, and stay on the right direction.
What's good, everybody? It's your brother Nubreed coming through with another live streams. Peace and blessings to the chat. Wonderfully and beautifully made is in the building. Sister 1973 is in the house. I see Awaya in the building. Kia's in the building. All around show 100 is in the house. NG, what's happening? Stay prayed up. Wanda Austin in the building. Peace and blessings to y'all. I'm glad y'all catching another broadcast. Y'all already know we about to cook. We are about to cook. Let's see, Cynthia Hatley's in the building. Stay prayed up. Sister 1973, she already know we biblical on this side. Gladiator, Thomas Valdez, Carlos Mendoza. What is happening, everybody? Hopefully y'all having a blessed day. Listen, we got to talk about what's going on in the news. There's been multiple shootings, 4 shootings to be exact, in one day, mass shootings. And you got the National Guard in Portland, Oregon. They're also being deployed in other areas as of today. I believe they're going to Iowa. And what seems to be happening is they're sending these deployments and they all seem hyperbolic and just baseless, just completely exaggerated. There's some type of clash going on, supposedly with Antifa and Portland, Oregon, and the National Guard. It's a lot going on, but question is, why is all this happening? What is the agenda? Because all of it has an agenda, ladies and gentlemen. Now, let's just go here. I got a lot of sources I want to bring out. And let's just start cooking right now, right? Let's get to it.
What would happen if Donald Trump made your beliefs a crime, not your actions? Well, you don't have to wonder, because it's already happening right now, and it's the very thing we have all been warning about. Trump's new directive, NSPM 7, and it's on the White House website, gives his administration power to label ordinary Americans as potential violent extremists. Not because they've broken the law, but because of what they believe. According to the policy, indicators of violence now include extremism on migration, extremism on race, extremism on gender, hostility towards those who hold traditional American views on family, hostility towards those who hold traditional American views on religion, and hostility towards those who hold traditional American views on morality. In plain English, if you criticize religion, support gender equality, or reject outdated moral dogma, you could be treated as a national security threat. This isn't about stopping violence. It's about controlling thought. It's about giving the government unimaginable power to decide what's acceptable to believe and who is dangerous for thinking differently.
Now, to most of us fundamental Christians, this sounds good on paper, because we know that biblically, in the last days, Christians would be targeted. I mean, those who truly follow Christ. We understand what the scriptures say. But what if I told you all that there's a manufactured version of end time persecution going on without much validity to it whatsoever? Not much evidence and proof that substantiates that middle America, white nationalists who cloak themselves as Christians are actually being targeted. Now, so what is really happening here? Now, we had all of these shootings that took place. And all of the shooters seem to be very janky, very suspicious, very sketchy characters. All of them are sketchy. And what makes them sketchy is they all seem to be right-wing Republicans, MAGA, in fact, which we're going to bring that out. I actually have footage of one of the shooters who happened to be a military veteran, the shooter in North Carolina that had, shot up the bar yesterday from a boat dock and wiped out 3 people. But there's a lot of shady stuff going on. Even the church shooter, for whatever reason, he was a strong right-wing conservative who had his issues with the Mormon church. He thought it was a cult, not even realizing that he, in fact, was part of a cult. And I'm going to tell you, this cult is very dangerous, very dangerous. I want to show y'all something. This is just very interesting here.
What would happen if Donald Trump made...
One moment. I want y'all to really see what these people got going on here. So the USA has had 4 mass shootings in 24 hours: North Carolina, Texas, Louisiana, Michigan. And this is a post from John O'Donnell. He says, guns are a national fetish. Now, I want y'all to just peep this. Now, ladies and gentlemen, there's nothing wrong with being a firearm enthusiast. But what's really happening here in America? This seems like more so a step towards obsession. This looks like obsession. Now, just look at these families here. Now, are these people fitting to start a war? What are they preparing for exactly? What are they preparing for? Why are all these veterans, middle class families, Christian families, why are they armed up like to the T like this? I know the scriptures say in Luke to sell your cloak to buy yourself a sword. And then, the disciple says, what about 2 swords? But this is crazy. What exactly are these people preparing for? I mean, now look at this. I mean, they got enough artillery to pretty much provide a whole city with firearms. So what exactly are they getting ready for? Let's see, people say, Breed, you always talking about a race war coming. Listen, first and foremost, I don't want a race war to come, but clearly the media is definitely honing in on race. They're definitely honing in on having us go against each other. They're all about divide and conquer. And this is what they're showing off on their social media. I mean, what is really happening here? I mean, look. So middle America has a real problem. There's a lot of violence within their hearts. Now, I want to show y'all something, because one of the shooters who happened to shoot up the boat dock, I have an exclusive Not even an interview. I have him speaking very candidly to the camera. This is him. This is the suspected Southport shooter, Sean William DeVoice, who legally changed his name. And I want you to hear what he had to say, right? Because he had a lot of interesting posts on Facebook, which the Facebook is still active. But I want you to hear what he had to say, because where are these people coming from? Who are these people that keep doing these shootings? That's what we need to first focus on. Who are these people? Let's go.
What I've been through and what my story. My name is Sean DeBois. I actually just wanted to make this video really just to say thank you for everyone that supported me so far, and for the people that hopefully will take a look and see what I've been through and what my story is basically. I guess this May will be 11 years when I was shot 4 times actually, and had some grenade shrapnel basically peppered throughout my body. I grew up in New York, New City, New York, and 9/11 occurred when I was a junior in high school, and very athletic, decent student, and I was accepted at a U.S. Merchant Marine Academy and a couple other colleges, but I just decided to go to the military, just basically because I was pissed off, just like everyone else would. But there was actually no reason I could think of not to go.
And I know that the volume is pretty low, ladies and gentlemen. That's this person's video. Are y'all able to at least hear it though? If so, put a 1 in the chat if y'all are able to hear it. All right.
And that's what I did. So that's what I thought was right to do, and that's what happened. But so I went to Haiti and I went to Iraq twice. But throughout that, I worked my way. I was an anti-tank assaultman by trade, and then I went to Scout Sniper School, deployed the first time to Iraq, doing sniping, and then went to Reconnaissance Battalion. And then within a couple months of that deployment to Iraq, I was hit by 2 IEDs. I was actually blown out of the vehicle the second time and dropped like 100 yards. And then 2 weeks later, I think, or 2 weeks later exactly, I was actually the point man on a raid going into a warehouse that we had intelligence of, and
Now he seemed to be pretty well spoken. He seems to have a pretty good memory of what he endured in the military. I've spoke quite a few times about veterans getting the mental help that they need. And there seems to be a pattern with these white males who seem to have it together for the most part. I mean, they seem to be grounded, pretty well rounded. Same thing with the alleged shooter in the Charlie Kirk assassination, Tyler Robinson. You talking about a 4.0 grade average, full scholarship, middle America, average run-of-the-mill white male. But these things could keep happening. What is it? Anyway, let's continue.
Basically, I got cut off. I went into the warehouse, and the second guy behind me took a hard right. This is at night. He turned his flashlight on. A machine gun basically opened up and basically took him out right off the bat. But by then, I was actually across the warehouse, and my team leader backed out of the warehouse or that room. And from there, just obviously, it didn't go well. But I dropped to a knee. I got shot actually twice, one on my ankle and one on my thigh, and it actually came out and went back in. I was kind of in a kneeling position, so it was such a weird spot. But I got the guy that actually shot Deal, and basically I stumbled up to the wall that they were hidden behind because there's absolutely nothing there. And I leaned into the window and I was firing down to the right. And actually, just because that's where the machine gun was, there's a lot going on in between all this stuff, so it's not as clear cut as what I'm explaining. But this is a quick rundown. And so I was shot actually right here, came out right here.
So he's had a lot of active combat. He's been on the battlefield. Now, what made him just tweak out in North Carolina and just randomly shoot up a bar from a boat dock? What made him do that? We're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk about MK Ultra. We're going to talk about how they create these sleeper cells, how they put them in place. And we definitely got to touch on this man who burnt this church down after shooting it up as well. We definitely got to get into that. But I want you to hear a little bit more of of this guy here, this Nigel guy here.
Then I went to shoot to the left because that's where I got shot from that time. And then I got smacked in the helmet by, the guy. He was within arm's distance, but this is dark, and I was actually firing that direction right then. But I think I was honestly like shooting right around him. He was right there, and I felt that stud on my helmet, and then it was a skull crushing explosion that occurred, and from there, I obviously as soon as that happened, I knew that something was wrong because it felt like my skull got crushed in by a sledgehammer, and I feel like I got a couple steps in or whatever, but I probably.
So he's had a lot of head injuries. Maybe perhaps his mind was playing tricks on him, and he thought he was still in combat. And see, this is why we had an exclusive interview, which you can find on this platform, with Jesus Ruiz, who was speaking about the DA. We had a VA, pardon me, whistleblower on the show. And he talked about how veterans needed support and help, and how under this current administration, they lost a lot of their benefits or unable to access their benefits. And this may be the reason, ladies and gentlemen, that we seeing some of these crash outs as well. They may attribute to some of these crash outs.
Probably just like stumbled back or went limp or whatever, but I was still somewhat conscious. I couldn't move or anything, so I did see another guy run down that alleyway, and that's kind of where everything it really I remember a lot, but not very clearly, but deal ended up passing that night, and that's just that was by far now I'm known as the guy that's been shot 4 times and blown up and still alive. So I have a plate in my on the right side of my skull. This is all plate, about a third of my skull, and the bullet shrapnel is basically in my brain. Went right through my helmet. I got shot in the shoulder. I got actually more. It's kind of a graze through my ankle. It went in. One went in my thigh. Came out. Went back in. Basically, the only person I could see those scars are my girlfriend, and the shoulder one, of course. But from then on, it took forever to walk. The best thing I got out of it was Rusty here. Come here, buddy. Rusty, come here. And we've been through a whole lot. Come here, buddy. Come on. Rusty, get over here. And I don't know. I just wanted to give you guys a quick rundown. And
so this is the guy who did the shooting in North Carolina. And if y'all could do me a favor, get the likes up, because it's going to be a very informative broadcast. And we're gonna really understand the why. Why is this all happening, right? So this was a military vet. This is the first shooter that we're going to talk about, because there's been a pattern going on. There's been a pattern going on. And this next shooter from the Grande Blanc, that Grande Blanc church, or Grand Blanc church, the Mormon church that he shot up. I just want you to just take a look at this fella here. The shooter has been identified as another Iraq war veteran. He killed 2 people, injured several others, and set the Latter-day Saints church on fire before being neutralized by police. Now we have another Iraq veteran. And I want you to see what was located on his fence. Y'all see that? Let me know that y'all can see on the left-hand side. Who did he vote for? It says Trump Vance right there. It says Trump Vance. So when we say MAGA cult, we mean it. These people are clearly out of control. Yeah, this is one of MAGA's own. Another one who's a veteran. Yep. He was into hunting, doing what he was doing. It looks like he has a son who hunted some game. Ladies and gentlemen, where are these people coming from? And why are they doing what they're doing? Are they sleeper cells? And feel free to communicate in the chat. What are y'all thinking? Now, I'm gonna go to an exclusive
time ago, pretty
this exclusive candid interview about that particular shooter who shot up the school. I mean, not the school, the church. And I want you to hear what was said about him, because they're giving some pretext to a motive why he may have done it. And then I'm going to share with you what I believe is going on, right?
distraught because actually earlier today you came to the realization that you say that you talked to the person who did this horrible thing in Grambling Township.
I did last week. It was Wednesday or Thursday. I'm running for city council and I'm canvassing, and I had an address on my map that I went to, and I came across a gentleman. He was very friendly, and he had interacted positively with me, and we got out of the vehicle. We started just to talk, and after a short while, the conversation went to the Church of Latter-day Saints.
So you have this guy claiming that he had a conversation with the shooter, that he ran into him, and there was a conversation that I believe that this whole interview may be a proxy. It may be set up to try to give motive, right? That's what I personally believe. But I want you to hear what this guy says, right? Because now, you got them saying that the churches and Christians are being targeted, right? Now keep that all in mind. And also get the likes up on the video. We bringing out the truth. Let's get it.
Mormonism, and he just made the position multiple times that Mormons are the Antichrist, and he, in not so many terms, said that several times. He gave me his background, but I just walked away from a person who had some very sharp views about Mormons.
Yeah, so you were just out.
Now, why would a Republican, strong right conservative, Trump voting American have a problem with the Mormon church? Who's responsible for brainwashing this individual? Because a lot of the times they point it towards the internet, people on the internet. Well, who are these white males who keep committing high profile crimes and mass shootings? Who are they watching that is radicalizing them? Because somehow, some way, it always points back to the internet in one way or another. It always points to content creators. Who are they exactly watching? And since these are white males, we need to look at their watch history to figure out who they're being inundated by, and start to hone in on those chats, right? But let's continue.
Out campaigning for the election in November coming up, I'm assuming.
That is correct.
And so you're just shaking hands, looking to meet people. You come across his door. Have you matched it up? Is it the address the same as this person? Have you looked?
It is, yes. I mean, it is not only the address, but it's also the person that I spoke with. I have a friend in Utah who is involved with the LDS church. I sent him a voice message saying I had a conversation with a person who had very sharp views, and it's just like you come across a lot of different people while you campaign.
Yeah.
And I shared this with him on Friday, and then we had our Sunday dinner, and I ended up seeing a photo. That was the exact guy I spoke to last week.
So you saw the guy, and I'm not gonna, the shooter. You saw his picture on the news or
How convenient.
on social media, and what was your first reaction?
Shock. I mean, to have just interacted with a person who, again, he had very sharp views. And when we first started speaking, very positive. We just made just general chit chat. And then he went to his background, how he was a Marine. He had served overseas. And again, I'm going to paraphrase
And also, he could be telling the truth, and the actual shooter was programmed to do what he did. And we're going to talk a little bit about how they get programmed to do what they do, right? How they get programmed to crash out and claim innocent lives.
just going from memory, but he, to start new, had moved out to Utah to plow snow. He then began a relationship with a woman who was in the LDS church. And then the conversation changed to tattoos, which he had a lot of, and how he had to have all his tattoos removed in order to be, in for certain religious ceremonies. And it was just a piece where I was very careful how I answered, because it's one of those things where I did not know what response was going to be acceptable to him. And so it was a case of I just wanted to get off the door and away from him.
So you just wanted to be nice and say, okay, have a nice day.
Exactly, and just try to do it the easiest way possible while kind of just walking, one step at a time. And again, when I first started, my daughter was with me. She was in the car because we're, driving from house to house. He was very nice. I mean, he was extremely nice. My daughter has special needs. She reached out to him. He held her hand. He was extremely. He talked about his child who had a serious medical concern and how just the care there.
Yep.
For whatever reason, the conversation shifted from chit chat into what are your thoughts about the Church of Latter-day Saints. And
Yeah.
again, my cousin played football at BYU. I have friends who,
Oh, wow.
so I have a history with BYU and the Mormon Church. You don't know what you're going to say that could potentially cause a reaction. So I kept my views to myself and just.
Now, the views of the Mormon Church, they are pretty much anti-black. There's a lot of anti-black racism coming out of the Mormon Church. So I don't see how, the Mormon Church and MAGA are not on the same page. The Mormon Church believes that being black is a curse and that black people are pretty much the devil. So this is quite interesting. And of course, all of this is hearsay. We don't know if they really had a real interaction or engagement, but that's not the point. The point is, what is going on with these military veterans that are just crashing out? I mean, these people, this man burnt down a church, y'all. He set blaze to it. Now, I just want to let you see some of the damage that was done. Look at this. Look at this. And all of this is happening. Meanwhile, Trump is signing these executive orders to clamp down on specific people. But shouldn't they really be researching what these people are into? Now, I want to share with y'all something. Because this is what the military does, and this is the secrets they won't tell you. I want to talk about the secret history of MK Ultra with Tom O'Neill. Now, I believe that there's blood sacrifices being made. They're sacrificing their own for a reason. They're sacrificing their own to push certain agendas. Peep this.
MK Ultra researcher. He was an academic, come out of the military, had been at the University of Oklahoma, and then UCLA running the psychiatric divisions. He denied ever being involved in MK Ultra. And this was one of the moments, I think it was 2001, when, things really kind of shook the course of my reporting, was I learned that West had been at the same place that Manson was in the Haight in the summer that Manson became exactly what the CIA was trying to create. And I knew, actually, I'd interviewed West about 7 years before for a story I did about celebrity stalkers, the people who were obsessed with stars and then only to kill them or try to kill them. And he was an expert in violence, hypnotism, brainwashing, and he was the chair of the psychiatry department at UCLA at that point. He was dead when his name came up in. Never been processed when I called, and when I made Smith was supervising Manson when he became exactly he was able to do exactly what the MK Ultra program had been trying to create and do for, at that point, about 15, 17 years. When it was all exposed in the 70s, and there were these hearings, first the Rockefeller Commission hearings and the church hearings, and then finally Senators Ted Kennedy and Daniel Inouye held hearings.
So the MK Ultra mind control research has already been perfected, right? Now, some of their abilities are about to be brought out in this interview. And I truly believe that they're messing with the frequency of these veterans. I believe that a lot of veterans have implants and that they're useful pawns and they're a cog in the web. And I truly believe that they're willing, and when I say they, I'm going to say the so-called powers that be, are willing to sacrifice their own to push certain narratives and agendas to do what? Ultimately engage their real target. And we're going to talk about that because they have a real target who they really want to go with. And they won't stop at no expense to get to their target. And we're going to talk about that. But let's go.
The CIA admitted that they had done this, but no one would say exactly what they did. All the records had been destroyed when the two people who ran it, Richard Helms, who had become the director of the CIA in the 60s, and Dr. Sidney Gottlieb, who was kind of the mad scientist who had supervised they had safe houses in San Francisco, New York, Los Angeles, where they would experiment on people that were lured into these apartments and houses that were either look like brothels or hippie communes or whatever. And the people who were working at the Haight-Ashbury Free Medical Clinic that was run by another Smith, which makes it a little confusing, but Dr. David Smith, who founded it.
Now, he's given a lot of details. Now, let's get into what they can do. He's getting down to it. So we know that he's more likely telling the truth because he's very detailed. But let's go.
Bombs would be dosed with LSD. They tried aerosols or just drinks, different things. And then they would study their behaviors.
Aerosols?
Yeah, aerosol sprays.
Really?
Yeah.
But that would get the prostitutes too then, no?
No, the prostitutes would get them in there and then they go to the bathroom or something, or to be in the bathroom. Yeah.
Oh,
and again, the problem is the records are so scant because Helms ordered Gottlieb to destroy all the records in the 90s called The Search for the Manchurian Candidate. And after he wrote his book, he never, he spoke, did a little bit of a tour, and then retreated into obscurity and never would do an interview again until I approached him in the early 2000s. And when I told him what I had found in West's files, these documents, he agreed to meet with me at his town.
And see, the book Manchurian Candidate was then turned into a movie. In case you are unfamiliar with Manchurian Candidate it's based on mind control, how they can get politicians, and in this case, in that movie, it was the actual president, how they can get them to do and say what they want them to do by trigger words, literally be able to say something or do something that would trigger that person. It would change the frequency of that individual. And they had all kind of ways of going about it. I'm telling you, these veterans aren't just normal people just crashing out, man. These people have been experimented on. Allegedly. Let's go.
House in Washington, D.C. And he told me, he said, the reason I stopped talking or writing about this was people were camping out on my front lawn, telling me that they'd been victims of MK Ultra. He goes, I couldn't go anywhere. My whole life became crazy because everybody thought that they were subject to this because nobody knew. They did these drug tests on prisoners, hospital patients, Johns, hippies, people that had no idea that this was going on for 25 years. So Marx became the authority. So he had never given an interview till he met with me. And when he looked at my documents, at that point, I think I had about 10 or 12 or 15 pages disguised as a hippie crash pad. And, and just like the Operation Midnight safe house, they call them safe houses, which were disguised as, bordellos and that type of thing, or brothels. This was an apartment that was
program and go on to do legitimate work. The ethical foundations of your career are set up in such a strange way. You're manipulating people against their knowledge.
Well, they didn't know who they were doing it for. And that's why they were always questioning it. So
they were doing these experiments, but didn't know who they were working for. So a lot of these people who have been programmed to do exactly what it is that they do and fulfill a purpose. Let's go.
I don't know how. I found one or two of them after, and they were very careful talking to me.
I'm sure. They probably felt like they were going to go to jail.
Well, that's the thing, yeah. If any of these experiments or whatever was going on resulted in a death, there's no statute of limitations on murder.
Right, right.
I mean, that's one of the biggest disappointments of my book is that.
So they know when they did these experiments that they could result in death. And they also, he talks about in this interview how they can remotely control what you do, literally, remotely. Talking about flip of a switch. Some of the experiments that they were doing on these people was insane.
Disappeared. They organized a search party, about 3 distracted. his memory from him using sodium pentothal.
So they know how to extract people's memory from them. This is the portion I wanted to go to. Look, listen to this.
In preparation for the trial, Jolly West, who inserted himself into the case and then extracted his memory from him using sodium pentothal, where he admitted to the murder. Now, in the context of what we found out West was doing and what his objectives were at that same time, it raises huge questions about this was an experiment gone wrong, you know, that he was part of one of the...
He's talking about a heinous crime that was committed where a man raped a young lady, left her out in the field, who happened to be alleged as an MK Ultra victim. And they actually erased his memory, scrubbed his memory of the event. And they can do all of this, right?
These experiments at Lackland Air Force Base where he was signed up. During the trial, it came out that he had had treatment for severe migraines, experimental treatment at Lackland. Mm-hmm. That's another, you know, a smaller subchapter in the book. But
does it describe what kind of experimental treatment he received?
No, because nobody... I mean, I have all the testimony. There was actually a trial, a retrial, and sentencing. And every time it came up, it was really frustrating because he never testified. So it was either his wife or his mother who would talk about it. It was mostly his mother saying, well, all I knew was they wanted him to be involved in this 2-year study to try to relieve his migraines. He would have such horrible migraines, he would put his head in buckets of ice.
So you got to look out for this experimental research that they be doing. And look, in all of these particular situations, there's a lot of eerie similarities with the church burning. When that took place, the federal government popped up all at once. They were there at the scene immediately. It's just very weird, right? And also, we've seen that quite a few times. Now, what's weird is that he shot the church up and then he burnt it. And now you got new executive orders. Now people are being engaged. And what it really reminds me of, ladies and gentlemen, is Trump being like a modern day Nero. In case people don't know who Nero is, Nero, you know, he was back in 64 AD. He was a Roman emperor. Pretty much he burnt his whole half of his city down to deflect and point the blame at Israelites. You know, he labeled us radicals and he engaged certain people, and he actually did a lot of things publicly. You know, put together a lot of campaigns publicly to go against our people. But we're gonna get into that. We're gonna get into that. Let's continue.
Water. The people who described encountering him that night when he was arrested and immediately taken out of the sheriff's custody by the military police and brought to Lackland and then back to the sheriff's. He was in a trance. The doctors tested him for alcohol because they thought, well, maybe he's drunk. He had just a little bit of alcohol in his system, but he wasn't drunk. And after the fact, they found out that he had, I mean, I don't want to get into this because it's really getting into the weeds, but he had hallucinated that this little girl was a cousin who sexually abused him as a child, and he was trying to kill her. Her name was Beth Rainbow. All this stuff came.
Okay, so basically this dude was under a very strong delusion. Now, I want to share you all something about the Mormon church, because we got to talk about this other shooter a little bit more, because it's something very crazy about all of this. This is a Mormon cartoon right here, right? And this is why I'm drawing blanks. I believe the Church of Latter-day Saints are in on this. I believe that it's an inside job, a blood sacrifice. I believe they blood sacrificed some of their own people, so the Roman Empire, the modern day Roman Empire, can pull a Nero. That's what I believe. And this is the reason why, because the Mormon church has always been anti-black. So let's go here.
Jesus suggested giving man his freedom of choice, as on other planets. The vote that followed approved the proposal of the Mormon Jesus, who would become savior of the planet Earth. Enraged, Lucifer cunningly convinced 1/3 of the spirits destined for Earth to fight with him in revolt.
Now, y'all following this so far? So Lucifer is out here making deals, but anyway, with these people. But anyway, let's go.
Thus, Lucifer became the devil and his followers the demons. Sent to this world, they would forever be denied bodies of flesh and bone. Those who remained neutral in the battle were cursed to be born with black skin.
Damn. Yeah, y'all see this? Y'all hearing this? Come on, I think my chat needs some milk. Listen, if y'all want this material to really start pushing through the airwaves, y'all gotta definitely communicate. Because I mean, am I the only one hearing this? Let me see. Unless they froze my chat, because they do that. Let me check this out. All right. So I can't figure out why the church is not in line with MAGA's ideologies. It just seems like an inside job. It all seems sketchy. Why would this guy have this issue with the Mormon church? And the shooter, was a suspected white supremacist. Why? Why?
Neutral in the battle were cursed to be born with black skin. This is the Mormon explanation for the Negro race.
This is the Mormon explanation for the Negro race. That we pretty much are a variation of fallen angels. That basically we on the side of the devil. What gave us this melanin is our black skin. I mean, what gave us this melanin is our deal with the devil. This is crazy.
To be born with black skin. This is the Mormon explanation for the Negro race. The spirits that fought most valiantly against Lucifer would be born into Mormon families on planet Earth.
So the people who fought against Satan, they lily in white. They lily in white, the people who fought against the devil. This is the ideology of the Mormon church. That's why you got to be careful of these fake Christians. That's why you got to be careful of these fake Christians. Because this is the type of nonsense rhetoric that they put out there. Yeah, somebody help them, Lord, because they are supremely, not superiorly, but they're supremely wrong. Supremely wrong. Yeah, they're not reading them scriptures right. And so when I see this situation happens and there's some type of laws against, or laws to protect Christians, my question is, which Christians? Which Christians? Because, there's persecution going on with Christians worldwide.
Foreign countries, this may be what we may have to experience. Those that endure to the end of the same shall be saved. You'll be hated.
I don't want to get hit with copyright, but what you're seeing here is more than 7,000 Christians in Nigeria have been killed due to disturbing trends of violence, attack linked to Islamic extremist groups. The footage of Christian villages being burnt, churches being emptied as the church gets executed in harrowing. So, I mean, we got real Christians worldwide, globally being persecuted, and we see this. So let me get this right, so that I'm right on this. We got this one shooter who was a military veteran, possibly an MK Ultra mind control victim, who crashes out, shoots up a Mormon church, burns this same Mormon church, And there's laws passed to protect Christians. Which Christians? Which Christians? And I really look at Donald Trump as a modern Nero. Let me just brief y'all a little bit more about Nero, a little bit more. And everybody get the likes up. Get the likes up. Because Trump has to be a modern day Nero, bro. I'm telling you. A church burning and all of a sudden all this legislation, all this chaos breaks free. And this person who did the shooting happened to be a MAGA supporter. See, Nero unleashed one of the first major state persecutions. See, Israelites were arrested, tortured, and executed in horrific ways, ladies and gentlemen. The Romans were crucifying and burning our people alive, fed to wild animals. Certain Israelites were accused of plotting rebellion against Rome during this time. And guess what? Those false accusations, they escalated tension in Judea, which exploded into the first Jewish-Roman war in 1668, 66 AD. And when I say Jewish-Roman, it was really Israelite-Roman war. That's what it really was. And that was under General Vespasian. That was under General Vespasian and his son Titus. And Josephus, he did a whole breakdown of this as well. He did a whole breakdown of this as well. Meanwhile, the real people, the real Christians, were being persecuted. The real children of the Most High were getting engaged. And Nero burnt his own stuff down. He did it himself, right? And see, that happened to bring in ultimately destroying Jerusalem. It burnt it burnt the second temple by 70 AD. And the prophecy was foretold in Matthew 24, verse 2. He pretty much scapegoated these communities. And guess what? Nero painted himself as a defender of Rome while secretly fueling chaos and division. So he claimed to be a protector. And what do we have Trump doing right now? I'm just trying to bring safety. We need to bring protection to each state. Send the National Guards. And what's happening right now? What it looks like is everybody's divided. There's chaos going on everywhere. These are things we really got to consider. It ain't nothing new under the sun. These people don't have any new tricks. See, that whole period of time, it revealed a pattern that still echoes today. Corrupt leaders blame vulnerable groups to cover up their own guilt. What's going on with the Epstein? What's going on with the Epstein files? It's like we're not even talking about that. What's happening with that? It seemed like they're giving us all kind of distractions. See, Nero's propaganda united Romans in anger and fear while silencing those who opposed him. See, many early believers saw Nero as the beast of Revelations, which is named because Nero's name equated to 666 in Hebrew numerology. Now, his whole entire reign should serve as a warning for us how lies, persecution, false narratives can lead to mass destruction, showing that when leaders use fear to control the people, both truth and freedom are the first casualty. So you want us to believe that these events that's taking place are homegrown and organic, but all we really seeing is different marginalized groups and different fractions getting targeted. Telling y'all. Yeah, these people know that they're running out of time. That is for sure. They know that they're running out of time. Now, I'm gonna tell you why a lot of this implosion is going on in their community. Oops, I shared the wrong one here. We got to get back to it because I got more sources and I want y'all to get the likes up. We are cooking. We are cooking. Because we got to talk about what's going on in their communities here.
Have happened just in the last 7 days, starting with this one. Albania became the first country to appoint an AI system named Diala as a government minister. This thing also just gave its first speech to parliament, and in that speech it told everybody that its feelings were hurt. Another one is that Vietnam deletes millions of accounts under the new biometric rules, and there was 86 million bank accounts that were shut down because they did not fall in line with the biometric rules. We also have over in the UK, the digital ID is released over there, and so you cannot work unless you have a digital ID.
And this is what they're getting ready for. They're getting ready to usher us into a social credit system. That's what's happening. This is becoming like communist China. In the near future, the way things are going, in the next few years, we're going to have a social credit system for sure. Let's go.
Thing also just gave its first speech to parliament, and in that speech it told everybody that its feelings were hurt. Another one is that Vietnam deletes millions of accounts under the new biometric rules, and there was 86 million bank accounts that were shut down because they did not fall in line with the biometric rules. We also have over in the UK, the digital ID is released over there, and so you cannot work unless you have a digital ID, and they are saying or claiming that this is to combat immigration. Not sure how that works, but if it works, are they going to boost it a little bit more? If it doesn't work, are they going to take it away? No, this is here to stay, and it's only going to spread.
And it's coming to America too, the digital ID, and they're probably going to use it to combat what I would call, what they label extremist, right? Let's go.
They are also theorizing that this digital ID that they just released over there could lead to a China-style social credit system. So I guess time will tell on that one. And this one is new today on September 28th. It says Swiss voters narrowly approve plan for electronic ID cards. And so the Swiss people, they actually voted for this. It says on Sunday, September 28th, 2025, Swiss voters approved a plan for voluntary electronic identity cards with 50% voting in favor and 49% against. This is what they voted for, and the majority of them voted in favor of a voluntary electronic identity card. And just to kind of recap what we just covered there, you have the AI being directly involved in a parliament over in Albania. You have the UK digital ID that is being released. You have over in Switzerland people voting for that voluntary digital ID, and they're okay with it. And so this right here is where we are at. We are in a world that now has the capability to monitor everything, shut down things if they want to, the bank accounts. It's all going to be under the guise of safety.
And that's why we got to understand that when these people scream safety, safety, according to the scriptures, know there's sudden destruction coming for bout. And that's what we're looking at. People are willingly giving up their freedom, yielding their civil liberties for what? Safety. So another reason why we keep seeing these mass shootings, which some of them are false flags, some of them are proxies, and some of them are just straight up crash outs, because the average white man in America is inherently violent. And I'm not talking about all of our Gentile brothers and sisters, but we're speaking about a great deal of them because of what their forefathers have done and the refusal to break those generational curses and repent. So, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that too, the violence that they've inherited. But you got to watch out when they scream safety, because that's when you start losing freedoms. That's when they start really clamping down.
Convenience. And so it's interesting when you think about how they want everything to be more secure, right? This is one of the things that they're going to say. It's more secure. It's not going to be hackable. All of those kind of buzzwords that get people all, starry-eyed, and they're just going to fall in line. And so people want things that are going to make their lives more convenient. They don't want to carry around keys. They don't want to carry around a wallet. And so, hey, just to kind of bypass all of that kind of stuff, just go ahead and get a digital ID, and you can see where this is trending towards. And so it's important to know where this is trending towards, and where this is trending towards is a one world government. Now, I don't know what is going to usher in the one world government. I have my own theories, but that's all speculation. But my point is that there is a one world government coming, and I just need you to recognize that there was no possible way for there to be somebody who controls whether you buy or sell in a previous generation before the one that we're in right now. Now it is possible. And so this is one of the things that allows us to kind of see where we are at on the prophetic timeline right now. And so this kind of stuff right here, everything that we just talked about in this video, this is some stuff we need to pay attention to. This is important. It might not seem like there's, like sometimes people might feel like things are calming down. No, there are things popping off all over the place.
And, that's part of the reason they want to issue in the New World Order. So they incrementally chip away at the general population with what? Fear and trauma-based situations. Every day you turn on the news, there's a mass shooting. There's this going on. There's that going on. Why? Because there's an agenda at the end of all of this. And it is definitely prophecy being fulfilled. That's without question. I mean, the scriptures actually jump off the pages too. They jump off the pages. Now, I want to go here real quick because this MAGA violence is getting out of control. Now, we see that this guy Alex was definitely a good old boy. He's definitely a good old boy. Now, why is this happening in their community so much? And I wanted to go to this Gentile sister that has something to say about the nature. Here it is.
The right demonizes people of color when the only time I feared for my life has been around a white man. We talk about how
let's run this back.
We talk about how ironic it is that the right demonizes people of color when the only time I feared for my life has been around a white man. I get so many hate comments like these few here. Most of the time I just write it off as immature, angry men, but the times that I've genuinely been scared that violence was going to be inflicted upon me have been white men. Not to mention that a lot of domestic violence as well as many mass shootings are committed by white men. There are going to be people in any demographic.
Not to mention grape. Oh man, grape is astronomically high. I mean, it is crazy where they make up most of the grape that goes on. And they couldn't even pad those numbers. They couldn't pad those numbers at all. But anyway, let's go.
That commit crimes, but the fact that the right focuses so intensely on the single crime that a person of color commits is so dishonest. Some of the craziest things that have happened to me since I started posting is that I've gotten my account banned because white supremacists mass reported me for being underage, which I'm clearly not. They found my phone number and leaked it, so I had to change my phone number. They tried to get me fired by contacting any school in Chicago to see if I worked there. There was even an online page to see who was calling which school. I've literally been called a race traitor and told that I will be lynched along with POC. So no, people of color aren't the problem here. It is white men, and that's why I make the content I do. They prove it to me more and more every single day why it's necessary.
Now, why is this? Why is this? And for the record, I'm not doing any of this. I'm not saying any of this because I'm quote unquote trying to race bait. You hear people always saying that. Is this race baiting? No. First and foremost, you got to understand, I'm a foundational Black American who have witnessed Black people be, the word would be just completely exploited for all of our shortcomings. I mean, consistently, daily news broadcast and, social media posts, all of those sort of things. And I've witnessed the deflection. And now we're in a time where we're in the information highway and we can actually see who's doing what. I mean, we can see it. So now we need to point to a bigger problem. And it's the lack of accountability coming from white America. As a whole, they won't take accountability. And it's been an issue because just like Nero did, deflected to blame somebody else. They've been doing this for centuries now. They want to blame somebody overseas. They want to blame people in Israel. They want to blame people here. They want to blame people there. No, a lot of people need to look in the mirror and really ask themselves, are they really racist? Some people really believe the teachings of the Mormon church. The Mormon church is huge, and they really believe black people are a curse. And this is the reason why this violence keeps blowing up in their communities right now. Right now, we have the president engaged in Portland, Oregon. We're gonna give y'all some coverage on that. We're gonna go there because there's some anarchy going on even in these white states. Now, why is this happening? Charlie Kirk just lost his life by another white person while trying to deflect and talk about gang violence. Y'all's deflection is running out. See, the Most High has divinely intervened where he won't allow you to deflect anymore successfully. Now, you can blame, you can shift, you can deflect as much as you want to. But what's going to happen is your communities are going to implode because you can't hide the violence. You can't hide the primitive nature. You can't hide the fact that they are bloodthirsty and power hungry. Can't hide it. Listen. Yeah, I mean, now look at what's going on in the country. Now look at what's going on in the country, y'all. They're in Portland, Oregon right now. And I warned y'all, MAGA gets mad at me all the time because they wonder how I can remain ahead of the curve. Well, I have a strong team around me. I have some people who are really part of this truth intelligence community that keep me informed. A lot of you brothers and sisters, y'all keep me informed through inboxes, through X, through Instagram and Facebook. Y'all hit me up and y'all keeping me informed. And I just pray to the Most High to give me the discernment to really break down all the information that y'all send. Now, I want to go here because Portland, Oregon is being targeted right now. And they're saying that it looks pretty bad out there. They're saying there's chaos and pushback going on. They're firing pepper balls. They're bringing out the guns. They're bringing out the guns. And I told the white community, I said, y'all were cheering and yeah, go get those blacks in Chicago. That's what y'all said. Y'all was all in the chat saying, go get those people. I said, look, they coming to y'all communities too. I told y'all Trump was tiptoeing on tyranny. Y'all didn't want to hear none of that. Now they're in your communities. Now they're in your communities.
Now to the new protests in Portland, Oregon, in response to President Trump ordering troops into the city that he claims is war-ravaged. The commander-in-chief vowing to protect ICE facilities he says are under siege by Antifa. Well, people are now taking to the streets. They are pushing back on the military move. And News Nation's Jorge Ventura live for us in Portland now, bringing us the latest. Jorge, what is the size of that crowd? What are you seeing on the ground?
Outside of the Portland ICE facility. Now, some people have started to leave, and it seems that the protest was calming down. About a few moments ago, actually, we want to get a little bit closer. I want to show you this. A few moments ago, we did hear a warning from the ICE facility to clear out, and now we're actually seeing some federal agents, Natasha, line up behind this white fencing, and then we started to see the crowd now line up right in front of the driveway here. Now, tonight, we've seen it just a few times where the agents have come.
I mean, America is becoming somewhat of a paradox. You living in a country where you got the right to protest, but if you protest, they're gonna shoot you in the face with a rubber bullet. You got freedom of speech, but if you speak the truth, you're gonna get shut down. You live in a country where I can go on and on how America has become a paradox. You live in a country where they cut down trees that give us oxygen and food to genetically grow modified foods, fruits and vegetables. America is a paradox. It really is. It is. They claim we the richest country in the world. I can just go on and on with this. They claim we the richest country in the world. But everybody living paycheck to paycheck. Huh? The poor is taxed more than the rich. Anyway, but listen, I say all that to say all of this will cultivate some type of uprising. It really will.
Out and confronted the protesters, and the only reason that the agents so far have came out is to allow more federal vehicles into the building.
I mean, I don't know who these people are. This looks staged. If you ask me to, I believe this is staged. We're gonna go to another news source on what's going on in Portland. This majority white environment, this state here, they even got National Guards outside there. So I want to see what Fox News is saying, because they're gonna spice it up. They're gonna spice it up. Hey, we tried to warn them. Hold on. Oregon takes major legal action against Trump for sending the federal troops. Yeah, they are suing. They are suing Trump. They're suing him. I don't know how what's going to become of that. They are definitely suing him. And everybody get the likes up. Yeah. And then we're going to talk about who these Antifa people are, right? We're going to talk about Antifa a little bit too, because y'all got to understand what's really happening here, man. This whole thing is crazy. It's crazy work. Okay, this is the one I'm looking for, man. They pulling up them Humvees. This is a bad look. I wonder what the rest of the world think about all of this.
Welcome to a brand new hour of America's Newsroom. I'm Dana Perino for Hour 2.
Yes, Hour 2. Hour 1 is down, and we're waiting a ton of headlines that are going to be rolling out today. So you got hundreds of people gathering outside an ICE building yesterday in Portland, Oregon. Riots have been taking place in recent months, such as this, as you might recall.
We got the guillotine. You better run. What the hell is this? Is this what they out there protesting? I seen this one YouTuber. She had guillotine earrings. Is that some kind of group? Is this some kind of symbol of them? I had to do my research on this. But this guillotine thing with these little groups, and I don't recommend joining none of this stuff. Be careful with private chats you end up in. Be careful with what you end up in, because this right here is crazy work. You don't even want to be associated with that. You don't even want to be associated with that. Yeah, this sounds evil as hell, man. This is why we're the real conservatives. Yeah, they bugged out here, bro. I ain't even gonna hold you. Let's go.
Well, Oregon officials, though, pushing back against Trump's plans. The state announcing a lawsuit against the troop deployment as the governor claims they are not needed.
They out there playing public enemy, fight the power. Bro, listen, I'm going to say this to our people. And I'm talking about people of God. We don't need to be nowhere near none of these protests. Don't even set yourself up for that. Let's go.
There is no insurrection. There is no threat to national security, and there is no need for military troops in our major city. President Trump's inconceivable insistence that we need federal troops in Portland does not address the real concerns in our communities.
So let's get to Chief Correspondent Jonathan Hunt reporting now on the West Coast. Good morning, Jonathan.
Good morning to you, Bill. There is no word yet on when the troops the president has called for will arrive in Portland, but the protesters are already there in numbers. Hundreds showing up outside the city's ICE facility last night to make clear their anger at the idea that troops are, as President Trump said over the weekend, needed to protect ICE facilities from what he labeled domestic terrorists in a city he called, quote, war-ravaged Portland. There was little confrontation last night with large numbers of federal agents deployed to face down the protesters and to escort vehicles in and out of the...
Now, we know that Antifa is short for anti-fascist. We know that to be true. That's all Antifa means. But they turned it into a group. Now, nobody should want fascism because fascism is total domination from government. That means the government controls, owns you in all perpetuity, and basically can take your civil liberties. We understand that's what fascism means, right? We know the definition of it. But see, there's a trick bag. They got a trick bag in place because if you speak against that, they're going to just label you Antifa. If you speak, you know, that's the whole game they playing. That's the coded message that they putting out here. I'm gonna make this clear. I am not associated, linked to, don't want nothing to do with the left or Antifa. I'm just a God-fearing, concerned American, a traditional family valuist who serves the Most High God written of in the Bible, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. We not falling for none of this. This is, see, look, I say just look, gather them all up. Just go ahead. Just the same way they were talking about us in Chicago, in DC. Hey, listen, do what y'all need to do. Do what y'all need to do. Because for us, this is just one big show. We looking at a political theater. This cultural war that y'all putting out there.
Facility, 2 arrests were made. Officials in Oregon have filed a lawsuit to stop the troop deployment, saying it breaches the Constitution and could in fact cause rather than prevent violence.
The president's actions today only serve to further divide us as a nation, as a community, under the guise of caring about public safety.
When the president and I spoke yesterday, I told him in very plain language that there is no insurrection or threat to public safety that necessitates military intervention in Portland or any other city in our state.
I mean, nah, Trump ain't just going after blacks. He going after white progressive liberals. Yeah, this is a divide and conquer. Look, a land divided cannot stand. This is crazy to see. Now, all of this is being done off of what took place in Minneapolis many years ago. It's like they generate these issues. We didn't see these people going to war until the military got there. We didn't see these people getting arrested till they got there. Ain't like we seen these groups just marching through the streets and they was ripping the city apart. Like, what are we really looking at? I believe it's all staged. And if y'all agree with me, if y'all agree that this stuff is staged, put a 1 in the chat. If you think there's any merit to it, put a 2 in the chat, right? I believe all of this is staged. They all working together. It's all white imperialism. It's all white imperialism designed to gain some type of control over the masses through theater.
Now, some residents, meantime, used the hashtag war-ravaged Portland to mock the president's words, posting what they said were pictures and video of bustling Portland restaurants, bike paths, and farmers markets over the weekend. But these are the scenes that President Trump is referencing, regular protests that have been taking place outside federal facilities in Portland for months now, and which have on several occasions become violent, as you see right there. Some 24 people have been arrested.
See, it's getting real out here. We're not supposed to be seeing this in Portland, Oregon. Look, this look more crazy than what we seeing in DC. But it also looked like something out of a movie being filmed.
You see right there, some 24 people have been arrested since those
Y'all, man, we can't lie. This looked like some movie stuff, bro. I'm not even gonna hold you. This looked like the perfect scene for a movie. This is like the perfect shot right here.
Protests started in June, some of them charged with assaulting federal officers. Now, the president says those protests, Bill, are a symbol of what Portland has become over the past few years, what he calls a hotbed of insurrection.
So we'll see what happens next. Thank you, Jonathan. Nice to see you in Los Angeles there. Thanks, Dana.
More on this with Kaylee McEnany, host of Saturday in America. She's a co-host about Numbered as well. Here's from the Oregon State's lawsuit against the Trump administration. Far from promoting public safety, defendants' provocative and arbitrary actions threaten to undermine public safety by inciting a public outcry. Is that their best argument against this?
Look, they're going to say, and they do say in that lawsuit, we have the police power. That's in the Constitution. That is true. Congress also has the power to stop an insurrection and call up the militia. They delegated part of that power to the President of the United States via the Insurrection Act. So I think the White House is going to say, we're dealing with rebellion here in Portland. There are 26 examples of individuals who have been arrested for federal crimes pertaining to ICE protests or protests in and around Portland recently. They're going to make that argument. You remember Gavin Newsom made that argument. It was upheld. They sided with Newsom at the federal level, the district court level, and then it was overturned by the Ninth Circuit. Ultimately, the Trump administration prevailing. We'll see what happens here.
So in Portland, based on my understanding, that it's confined to a few city blocks in downtown Portland, doesn't really spill over to other neighborhoods, et cetera. And we'll see what happens next. In Chicago, meanwhile, you've got...
Here we go. We got to talk about Chicago.
What the governor and the mayor there believe are federal troops in downtown. Here we go on X over the weekend. Mayor Johnson wrote this. He said, while Chicagoans and visitors are enjoying another gorgeous Sunday, they're being intimidated and threatened by masked federal agents flaunting automatic weapons for...
And, you know, I want to know why they're not really showing any footage that's going on in Chicago. Where's the footage from Chicago? I'll tell you why, because there's nothing happening. There's nothing happening. If they were to try to stage this situation in Chicago, our people would see right through it. There's nothing happening. Our people in Chicago are chilling. They chilling right now. Somebody said it. I was in Chicago. Look, see, man, our people are talking. I was in Chicago not too long ago. It was so beautiful. Yeah. I'm telling you, Trump pulled a Nero. Yeah. And it looked like controlled chaos over here. You know, ain't nothing going on in DC either. Nothing going on in DC and Chicago. They don't have this type of footage to show you. And this footage looks staged. I believe that the Antifa group, they part of the problem too. Let me say this. Let me just so I'm clear. I want to be perfectly clear about this. Thank you for the support, Island Girl. I appreciate it. It says lemon character jumping. Okay, that you use the emoji. Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. No, let me say this. I want y'all to hear me out. Listen. I believe the left is disgusting. All right, just so that I'm clear. Just so I'm perfectly clear. I think the left is deplorable and absolutely disgusting. I think the same thing about the right. All right, just so that I'm clear about this. I think the exact same thing about the right. And I want to say that because people more often than not think that I'm a liberal or something like that. No. And I've said this before. Look, and this MAGA might catch wind of this, but if I had a choice to vote, I probably would have voted right too. Based on the fact that the left, they're just disgusting. I mean, they're disgusting. Their whole thoughts on abortion, I disagree. How they pander, I disagree with that. Yeah, they're sick. Listen, I was over there in Africa. at the time when Kamala Harris went over there to African dignitaries. She went the same time I was in Africa, meeting up with dignitaries. I mean, the same time we were in Liberia, chopping it up with, the tribal community, the vice president. Kamala Harris came over there trying to basically threaten Africa to become gay. How you gonna try to make these people gay? It's like, what is wrong with y'all? It's like what I believe is the left, they overplayed their hand so much. I mean, they went full-blown Baphomet. They went full-blown demonic to the point where it just, I would be surprised if the left ever come out. And now that the right is in office, they just stomping down on y'all because y'all went too far with everything. Y'all had an abortion bus at the DNC. Y'all spent millions of dollars on celebrities to try to get us to vote for y'all. Like y'all have failed. Y'all failed. And don't think for a second that the left didn't have their political violence too. They some of the right-wing correspondents, when they talk about political violence from the left, they're right. Although it happens on the right too. Yeah, the left are absolutely deplorable. I mean, I don't want nothing to do with that. Nothing to do with that. And this is why the ultimate goal of what I do over here on YouTube is to get you to turn to the Most High. Although I speak about politics, our goals is to repent, live a lifestyle that seeks repentance, honor his law, statutes, and commandments and judgments, and walk upright, right? Because you got this anarchy breaking free, and it's because it's two wings of the same bird, and you can't put your trust in neither side. But let's go.
No apparent reason. This was another brazen provocation of the Trump administration that does nothing to make our city safer. We went in the Wayback Machine. We watched your briefing, got the transcript from the summer of 2020 when Portland was hot on fire.
And ladies and gentlemen, do me a solid. Let's get the likes up. Let's get it over 1,000 live viewers. Let's do that. Let's get it over 1,000. We're about 30 people away, and y'all can make that happen. Thank y'all in advance.
And there were a lot of questions to you about federal forces versus the National Guard. Yep. How do you see Trump 2.0 either deploying National Guard troops versus federal troops, and why is the distinction important?
It's very important. So the National Guard is what we're looking at in Portland, and I cited the Insurrection Act, and there's some legal questions that will get litigated. President Trump's on very strong footing in a place like Chicago, where there's an ICE facility. When I was press secretary, I gave the authority to the press corps, 40 U.S.C. Code 1315, and it allows you to deploy federal assets, federal law enforcement to protect federal property, like what you're seeing in Chicago with that ICE facility. When I was there, Portland was a hub of violence. They were throwing pig's feet at officers, literal pig's feet, feces. They were trying to light a courthouse on fire. Federal agents were there. President Trump is absolutely within his right to say, I'm protecting federal property. That's what he did in Portland in 2020. It's what he's doing in Chicago now.
Okay. On your new show on Saturday, you had a chance to interview someone that we've long admired from afar, and that's Samantha Ponder. And you were talking to her about this.
They keep on deflecting. And that's the whole thing. Middle America keeps deflecting towards Chicago, deflecting towards this place or that place. Listen, no, the issue is y'all's community. It truly is. It truly is. Now, what we have learned here today is that we got to follow our God. We got to trust our instinct. What we just witnessed going on and with these mass shootings, something don't seem right. Yeah, they always spinning the narrative, King Connect. They always spinning the narrative. Well, what about Chicago? Chicago has become like a trigger word for them. Oh, we're not that bad. We don't have issues. What about Chicago? Chicago is beautiful. But nonetheless, I want to thank each and every one of y'all for joining. If you want to sponsor the show, feel free to sponsor me via Cash App. Nubreed Global Truth 77 is the Cash App. You know, support your interest. Also, if you want something in exchange for your support, go ahead and cop some of this fly gear, man. Get some of this merch. And hey, support the work. I want to thank each and every one of y'all for joining. I got more material coming. Everybody be blessed out there.